everyone, Deacon Jonathan here at St. Mary's, and I'm back here to talk with you about another topic. And I figured a topic that maybe you may have thought about, and maybe a question that you've wondered about priests and bishops that you've seen, is what is this long black dress that we wear? It's kind of unusual. It goes all the way down to my ankles, and it seems really hot and uncomfortable, and you might look at it and say, well, I'm glad I don't have to wear that to Mass every day. But this vestment, this garment that we wear is called a cassock. Sometimes when you tell the kids this in a school, they think you say casket, especially when you tell them you go to seminary and they think you say you go to the cemetery. So we don't wear a casket at the cemetery, we wear a cassock at the seminary. But this is a garment that many priests and bishops wear on occasion. You don't see it as much anymore, but it is kind of making a comeback, if you will, with a lot of younger priests. And this garment that we wear, the cassock, we really see this at the beginning in the early church in a different form, as in the form of a tunic. Priests, the clergy, would wear very similar clothing to the rest of the lay people. And as time went on, the clergy's dress would become more and more distinct. And in the early church, at a council, the council decided that the clergy should wear something more distinctive and makes them separate and set apart from the rest of the lay people. And so they dictated that the clergy should wear some sort of ankle-length tunic when they're as part of their clothing. As time went on and clothing developed and changed, the clergy's style and what they would wear became more and more distinct as well. And when we get to the Middle Ages, the cassock and this kind of ankle-length tunic that priests would wear became really distinct only for the clergy, and most lay people wouldn't be wearing something like this. And as time went on, the church really honed in and said this is what priests are expected to wear, doing pastoral ministry and living at the parish and going around and traveling and administering the sacraments to people. And so as you can see, priests and deacons and seminarians, we wear a black cassock. It's all black. There's the buttons on here are all black. There's some piping on the edges that is also black. And sometimes you'll see some priests wear a kind of band, or it's called a fascia, around the waist, and it hangs down on the side. And this is black as well for the priest and for a transitional deacon like myself. Other clergy, such as bishops, also wear a black cassock, except their buttons and the piping that's on the edge of the cassock is typically like a purple color, almost like a fuchsia. And so bishops' cassocks are a little bit different with those colors. A cardinal also has a black cassock, except his buttons, instead of being purple like a bishop, are red, cardinal red, and the piping as well is cardinal red. Many bishops you'll see also have almost like a shoulder cape around their shoulders, and it's open in the front, kind of distinguishing them as bishops. And oftentimes you'll see them wear their cross around their neck as well. The Holy Father, of course, doesn't wear a black cassock. He does wear a cassock, but his color is white. And this comes from a tradition of a pope who was a Dominican priest, and Dominicans' habits are white. And so he wanted to retain wearing his white habit as the pope. And so this became a tradition after that the Holy Father would wear a white cassock. And so that's why we see the tradition of the Pope, the Holy Father, really stands out when he's around his priests who are wearing black cassocks, he was wearing white. Now sometimes when a bishop celebrates Mass, or he's sitting in choir, maybe he's not the celebrant for a particular liturgy, the cassock that he might wear is all purple, and it's a lot brighter color, or a cardinal might wear one that's totally red. So that's why you won't always see a bishop maybe wearing a cassock that's all black, but some different colors. As I had mentioned, there are some buttons on my cassock, and there are a lot of buttons. So it goes all the way from the top all the way down to the bottom, and there are traditionally 33 buttons on a cassock. And so it makes you think, what does 33 come from? That is the number of years that our Lord spent on this earth. Our Lord was 33 years old when he was crucified, and so each of the buttons on the cassock represents 1 year of his life. Sometimes on a cassock, mine doesn't have one, have it on here, but I can always have them added if I wanted to. Sometimes you'll see buttons on the sleeves of the cassock. On each sleeve, you'll have 5 cassock buttons, and these represent the 5 wounds of Christ. And so it's really beautiful to think that the priest, who is another Christ, who stands in the person of Jesus Christ, when he celebrates Mass, when he hears confession, when he anoints, whenever we celebrate the sacraments, he's another Christ. And the buttons on the cassock, those representing the 5 wounds, really help call to mind that he is another Christ. And of course, the 5 wounds, one in each of his 2 hands, one in each of his 2 feet, and in his side where the soldier pierced him with the lance. Oftentimes we'll see altar boys traditionally wear a cassock to serve Mass at, with a little white surplice, which goes usually from about below the waist or almost to the knee sometimes, and you'll see them wear this little white, almost like a little smock that they wear to serve Mass at. Seminarians also wear this when we serve Mass. Whenever we're attending Mass at the seminary, we'll wear the cassock and surplice every morning, and especially on Sundays. There's a couple of different symbolic meanings of different parts of the cassock. As you notice, the cassock is black, and the black really represents a poverty. Priests are called, not necessarily as diocesan priests, we don't take a vow of poverty like many religious priests and brothers do, but we do live in a spirit of poverty. And also the black represents a dying to ourself, because we don't live for ourselves, we live for others, and we live for Christ. And so the black is a constant reminder of our death to ourself and a living for others. The fascia that I had mentioned earlier, which we wear around our waist, helps to call to mind our chastity, our promise of celibacy, that we are God's, that we have made a promise to live for God, to live for others, and so we give ourselves to nobody else but to the Lord. And so this is why it's placed around our waist as a reminder of that. And you'll notice the collar, the white collar, it represents kind of hope, doesn't it? But it's also a reminder of our obedience to the bishop. This is a really beautiful promise that priests make. All the other promises he makes at his ordination, he stands before the bishop and he says, "I do," when the bishop asks him if he promises to do that. But with obedience, he goes before the bishop, kneels before him, and folds his hands and places them inside of the hands of the bishop. And the bishop asks him, "Do you promise respect and obedience to me and my successors?" And the priest says, "I do." And so this is it's sometimes it's more difficult than any of the other promises that a priest might make. Oftentimes they think that maybe the promise of celibacy, to live as a single man for the rest of their life, and not having a wife and children, is the most difficult promise that you make. But as many wise priests will tell you, the more difficult promise that we make is a promise of obedience. And it's very easy to want to live for yourself, and that you might think that you know better than maybe your superior, and to have the humility to be able to say yes to whatever the bishop asks you to do is difficult. And so the collar, it goes around our neck, almost like a dog collar, if you will. It reminds us of our obedience to the bishop. This is the style of collar, the one that kind of goes all the way around my neck. As you can kind of see, if I pull this down, it goes all the way around, and the button kind of cuts out a little square in there. This is a little more traditional style that was always worn like this, and it wasn't until maybe 60 years ago when the clerical shirt became more the standard wear of the priest. The cassock was pretty much normal and standard vesture for priests up until the 1960s. And it was after that where the cassock kind of fell away from the everyday use, and the clerical shirt became the more normal wear. And so it was a lot easier for a priest to put in a little piece of plastic into his shirt collar, and it would represent the same thing. So even though it looks a little bit different, they still represent the idea and the promise of obedience. So as you can see, sometimes I'll wear this cassock on Sundays when I am celebrating a baptism, or when I go to a cemetery to assist at a funeral, to do the burial rites, the rite of committal and final commendation. I might wear the cassock with a surplice over it in my stole when I'm doing the blessing of pets on the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi. There are various different liturgies and celebrations in the church that a priest can wear his cassock at. He can wear a cassock when he celebrates Mass as well, but he has to wear the alb on top of it. The alb is always necessary when a priest celebrates Mass, so even though he has the alb on, he may wear the cassock underneath his alb, but you may not know it because you can't see it. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief but informative discussion of the cassock. Many people ask me, it must be really hot under there. Actually, it's not. It actually feels really good. And there's a lot of times, especially at this time of the year, seminarians love this time of year because it's beautiful cassock weather. To walk down the sidewalk as the sun's starting to set and the leaves are changing and the wind is whipping through your cassock, it's a beautiful and very refreshing feeling. Sometimes the guys will wear shorts underneath their cassock. I usually wear just long pants, and so it's just easier to change into normal clothes after that. But it's really not as hot as it looks. It's actually very comfortable, and I really enjoy wearing my cassock. It's a lot easier to put on sometimes. Because all I have to have is the t-shirt on under this, and it's actually quite cool. So next time you see me and wearing my cassock, maybe out around on the parish, make sure to say hi. You can come and check it out. It's very comfortable, as I said. Great witness of priesthood, and I hope you enjoy some of the more traditional things that you may not see every day, but hopefully we'll bring some of them back. So God bless you.